That sounds good. Yeah, we've got a few so far. A little bit at a time here. Well, I recognize Fred. We've got 1 + 4 at this point. Very good. Let's give it another few minutes here before we get started. This is an inaugural dry run for an effort that we're going to work with going forward. Well, I'll see another bunch of familiar faces. Very good. And another familiar face. Very good. Okay, let's get going here, if you don't mind. We're continuing to bring in more folks, and that's good. Oh, we got our scout executive on and our advancement chair in the background. Very good. So this is our inaugural run as we attempt to improve our communication, reach out in more ways to attempt to get to our scouters and our parents, keep you as informed as we can on current and future events from the council standpoint. Format is going to be fairly short, 20 minutes on the outside. We've pegged this on Thursday evening at 6:30 so that it's fairly consistent. We'll do about 10 minutes worth of canned presentation, if you will, and then allow 10 minutes for conversation, chat, answering questions from the field of whatever topics might be relevant and interesting. Okay. So for those of you that I haven't met in person, my name is Randy Hill. I'm the council commissioner. And on the prepared side of the world, we've got the council executive, Scott Empekoven, and the background with him is Dave Ragsdale. And our host, who is unseen tonight, is our field director, Rob McLuhan. So this is our inaugural effort. We expect to run this on Thursday evenings, except for the roundtable Thursdays, 6:30 until 6:50. Enough of me. Scott, you're on.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Randy. Just want to kind of update everybody on what's happening. Some of you, most of you probably have heard some of this, if not all of it. As you know, we did decide, we had a committee of probably 20 people or so that took a look at our activities throughout the summer into the fall and made some decisions on what needed to happen as it relates to those particular events and programs. And the committee decided that the 2020 summer resident camping season for Scouts BSA and Boy Scout resident camp would be canceled for 2020. I will mention to you that we are looking at how to provide some alternative programs. There's a lot of things that are happening around the country, and we've got people taking a look at that. If those happen, hopefully those will happen. If those happen, they'll probably happen in sometime in August would be my guess. Looking at, again, at different ways that we can make that happen and still get some program out there to our scouts and our cubbies. Baker Beaver Weekend was scheduled in June. That has been canceled. Our National Youth Leadership Training course has been canceled, as has been any activity at Camp Baker. And I'll explain, or I mean at Camp Malacqua, and I'll explain that in just a minute. June Order the Arrow ordeal has, I call it ordeal, canceled. And our fall rendezvous has been canceled as well. Day camps are still on the calendar. We're looking at trying to run day camps in August, and we'll make a final decision by July 3rd on those. And if we don't do one, I think we can easily do a virtual day camp that's council-wide. So that's our backup or plan B for our day camps if we're not able to do an in-person camp. Camp Baker and Camp Malacca, at least Camp Baker will remain closed for until at least July 4th, and then we'll reassess what we're doing at Camp Baker. Camp Malacca will be closed for the season. One of the reasons for that is working with the Forest Service and working through the lease program that we have with the Forest Service. We can save ourselves up to as much as $35,000 if we go with a non-use year. Still means we can go in and do some maintenance things with some smaller groups. We may be doing that later on in the year, but any other activities or groups that were scheduled to go to Camp Malacca, that all has been canceled. We can't have any program up there. So we just pay a flat $300 fee as opposed to possibility of paying $36,000 or so. So, but our other properties, do want to mention that our other properties are available. Our weekend use properties are available to units. Now we have, once we mentioned that, what was it, 2 weeks ago, I think, we have had several different groups that have decided they really want to get out and get some program going and have scheduled those. We are asking them to turn in to the council as a part of their reservation process of reserving those facilities, a plan as to how they're going to maintain the state standards and the social distancing standards during those activities that they plan at those facilities. And it's worked out pretty well thus far. So one of the reasons we're keeping Baker closed at this point is Baker's a different animal. With the other facilities right now, we can make sure that we don't have 72, or that we have 72-hour period in between units going and using those facilities. But they're all outdoor facilities, very, other than Adirondacks and a shelter, that's all we have there. We've got other facilities at Baker, which means it would be a tremendous cost and time consumer for our rangers out at camp to make sure that things were disinfected and ready to go for the next group. And we just, for everybody's safety, including our rangers' safety, we've decided to make sure that Baker is closed through July 4th, and then we will reassess where we're at that point and decide whether we have groups out to Camp Baker or not. As far as the council office, just want to let everybody know that there are several of us that are in full-time, basically full-time and beyond, at the council office every day, Monday through Friday. But we also have office staff here to help take care of whatever you may need between 10 and 4 each weekday. So we have had several different groups that needed stuff from the council store. You can call in, you can email in, place an order, and let us know when you're coming in, and we'll have it ready to go for you. It's worked out pretty well so far. And I've suggested, if you want to place that order and have curbside pickup, we can provide that for you as well. So just a reminder, and our field director, if he were, if we were able to hear him, would say that I would say to you that our district executives, our field director, and me personally, we are available 24/7. So if you need something, let us know. We can help take care of whatever your needs as it relates to scouting are. The other thing I want to mention is I've been on a lot of meetings recently, and because of COVID-19 and other factors, as most of you probably know, the national office, the National Boy Scouts of America, are going through a bankruptcy. We are not. We're in great financial shape right now. But National is going through a bankruptcy. And you'll probably be hearing a lot about that in the next few months, at least until probably the end of the year. We are in good shape, and I just want to let you know that we're going to continue to scout on. And we want you actively out there doing things. I first and foremost is the safety of our scouts and scouters. If you can get outdoors in a safe manner, I encourage you to do so. If you can't, I encourage you to continue to scout virtually. It's awfully tough to get people back to scouting if they've been away from it for 6 months. And so continue to scout on, and as far as what you hear nationally, understand and know that we as a council are strong and in good shape, and we will continue to provide the scouting program. And yeah, it's challenging times, but we're in great shape and can weather the storm that's in front of us. So, you know, and I'd be more than happy to answer questions or during the question and answer period about that. So I think at this point, that's all for me. I'll turn it back over to Randy, and Dave and I will probably switch places. And
yeah, do a quick shuffle there, Scott. Nobody's looking. Yeah, I just sent out a chat to everybody on the call here that if you have questions that you'd like to get surfaced, then the chat feature is a way of getting that done. Otherwise, we'll hold a verbal quick question and answer session at the end, still trying to stay within our 20-minute self-imposed time frame. Without further ado, here is the man of the hour. That'd be my dear friend, Dave Ragsdale. Dave, take it away.
Thanks, Randy. In order to keep it brief here, I was going out to collect all these different little bits of information on advancement that dribbed and drabbed in, but the BSA already brought it all into one convenient web page for me. If you're curious about it, on the national website, scouting.org, it's a /coronavirus/COVID-19-FAQ. And there's different sections about camping and other stuff, but I was just going through the advancement portion of it. As far as Cub Scouts is concerned, in tigers, wolves, bears, Akela is the parent, and they sign off a lot of things in the Cub Scout books. For Webelos, Akela is the den leader. But as far as the coronavirus goes, that honor has also shifted to the parents. So parents can sign off on Webelo requirements as well as the den leader. And the completion date to finish the rank and move up to the next den has been pushed to the end of July. So they have till July 31st to finish their rank requirements and move up. As far as Boy Scouts, I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. As far as Scouts BSA is concerned, sorry about that. And venturing and Sea Scouts. The biggest change is that virtual meetings, virtual activities count for activities that are needed for advancement. Having a virtual camp out, backyard camping, where you frequently touch base via Zoom or something, which our troop has done, and it's been it's worked out fairly well. Those are perfectly acceptable. As far as the OA is concerned, virtual camping is okay, but not more than 3 nights in a month, I think was their limit on that. Cooking on campouts, you know, if you're camping virtually, so you're in your own backyard, if on the day of your virtual camp out, you act as cook and you feed your family, that's perfectly acceptable. Some of the swimming requirements can actually be done by demonstration on land. You know, there's a lot of specific stuff here that I don't want to get into with the time limit. The webpage spells it all out. In terms of merit badges, it's easy to go merit badges online. You can do it with a phone call. You can share documents with Google Docs. You can send, PDF documents back and forth. You can send pictures. You can do Zoom meetings. Just that the YPT must always be enforced. So, as far as myself, I've teleconferenced with a scout and his parent on the extension, and he shared a Google Doc with me. And now we've still been working blue cards. But as far as the BSA is concerned, V1, the only way to be is be on Scout Book, because they talk all about in this page about being able to connect remotely with unit leaders and merit badge counselors and keeping track of everything. So if you're on Scout Book, they make it very easy. Otherwise, you're a little more old school about it. And then, of course, on Eagle, if the COVID-19 restrictions have restricted you from getting your project done, if you're a Life Scout and because of the social distancing requirements, you've not been able to get your project finished, you can have an extra 3 months going out to, I believe it's September, the end of September, right? Yeah, the 30th of September. So we've had a few requests for extensions, and we haven't, we haven't had any problem approving those as they've come in. We've only had, what, 2 or 3? 2, okay. So that's a big overview. Anything more specific at this point, or we can talk about it later, or you can go to that webpage. Back to you, Randy. I can't hear you. Oh, you're muted.
Hang on a second. Okay, thanks, Dave. Appreciate that.
Sure.
But, yeah, you've taken about 30 pages of information and compressed it into about 5 minutes worth of overview. That's phenomenal.
Okay.
So this is the point where if you've got additional questions about the topics of the evening or additional things that you'd like to chat about, now would be the time to do so. And before we get too much further, the next time we'll get together is on the 11th of June. Please pass the word out. We'll have a little bit better idea how all this is going to flow by that point. And in the meantime, Rob will tell you, and I've looked at it earlier, this session will be posted on Facebook, and you'll be able to simply dial it up and watch and listen to your heart's content. So, questions and answers. Now's the time. We've got about 5 more minutes. Anything from the group? Unmute, Rob. Unmute.
I'm not seeing any questions coming up in the chat window, but folks can unmute themselves if they've got a question and go ahead and share that with the group.
Yep, now would be the time.
And I would mention real quick, just a reminder, because it kind of happened with something we were doing, but just a reminder as Dave was talking about the youth protection issues related with advancement and everything. When you're doing virtual meetings, if there's youth involved, you can't record those meetings.
Oh, okay.
Just a reminder of that.
Yeah. And also boards of review can also be done via Zoom or teleconference. We've done a great number, well, not a great number, but we've done a good number of Eagle boards with Zoom. We had an Eagle board in the office here just the other day, and that was the first one since February.
Yep. Yeah, Zoom is a pretty powerful feature as we're all discovering. So folks, if you've got things that you'd like us to cover next go round, get the information posed and pushed forward to me or Scott or Rob, and we'll try to identify that. Go ahead, Jim.
One thing that I read in the letter from the Forest Service today about Camp Malacqua, if we want to go up there and do any service, we can't just show up.
Right.
We have to send them a letter explaining what we want to do, how many people are going to do it, and a whole bunch of stuff. So anything to do with Malacqua should go through Scott and Roger Haxby or Carl Grimes, who are those property chairs.
Yeah, it's a government thing, right?
Oh, big time. Yep.
Yeah.
That's it.
Work projects, as far as I'm concerned, are council orchestrated, so.
Yeah, on that note, Kelsey Wood pushed out a notice about the BLM grounds being open for camping. I thought that was a real positive reminder for the bunch.
You know,
Scott, Dave, Rob?
I was just going to mention one of the things, you know, we're trying to provide as much guidance as we can, but I have had units asking us about now, like one of the questions they had recently was, I think and Dave or Rob, you're on there, you can pipe in too, but because you were involved when we were discussing this, but one of the units asked us about overnight camping because it said something about overnight camps. Well, we don't have any overnight camps scheduled. And I think they're talking about organized camps. That doesn't mean a unit can't go out and have an overnight camp out. It just means we can't have organized camps. So yeah, go ahead, Jim.
One thing that I read on ScoutNet was that troops cannot plan activities with multiple troops.
Right.
And one of the things we should be real aware of is we have a lot of girl troops and boy troops that are affiliated together. But if they plan a unit, both those units to go together, that's actually considered a council activity, I believe. How's the reading on that, Scott? I mean, what's, you know, like Fred's got a unit with females, I believe. And if the two of those want to go together, is it a big deal? We want them to go.
What I would say is that if there's, here's my take on this. If there's two troops that have two separate campouts, they happen to be at the same location, that's what it is. But you know, and I think a lot of times what I've been a lot of the questions I've gotten is, and I realize the units are looking to the council for guidance, and we're trying to provide it the best that we can. But at the same time, I'm very cautious about it being perceived as permission. So my response in a lot of cases is, here's my take on it. Some of this is up to you. You know, as long as you're following these guidelines, it looks acceptable. But you know, if you look to me to say, hey, we want to do this, this, and this, can we do it? I'm probably going to say, here's the guidelines. You determine whether you can do it or not. Because a lot of times it could be perceived that I got permission from the council office, gee, and then something happened on that outing, who's responsible for that? The council is. So I'm going to be very cautious on how I provide that help and support just for the protection of the council.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Scott, from a best practice standpoint, we've got a question here in the chat from Fred asking, what about scouts in tents? Should they be one per tent except siblings?
Yes. Yes.
You know, that's national guidance, if I recall.
I would camp 1 in 10. Now, Fred happens to be down in Douglas County. Fred is aware that Camp Mooney is down there. Now, everything I read.
Well done, Fred.
Everything I read is that that as long as you have 2.5 feet, 30 inches between in the sleeping arrangements, that you could do that. So in other words, if you go out to Camp Mooney, you could have more than one in an Adirondack, provided there's 30 inches between them. And the guidelines or suggestions that I've read are that you should sleep them, you know, if you've got one in the top bunk and one in the bottom bunk, and you've got that 30-inch separation, you can do that, but still sleep them head to toe. You know, top one is head up, the other one is head down.
Okay. Thanks, Scott. I appreciate that. If there's other questions out there, please post them so that we can get at the question and answer period. We'll post answers for you. But we're at the end of our time. Any other comments before we go?
So Fred added, I'm glad to hear that, as PAC 216 is bringing 55 people this weekend.
Nothing like an advertisement, right? Very good. Okay. Well then, Scott, Dave, Fred, Jim, Joanne, John, whomever else is still here, let's go out and be scouts and play safe all at the same time. Thanks. We'll do this again on the 11th of June. Good night.
Thank you all.